Joining me now is Dr. Danny Richter. He is Vice President of Government Affairs for Citizens Climate Lobby. Dr. Richter, welcome.
Thank you, good to be here.
All right, good to have you here. Now, I'm gonna throw a curveball at you in a second because I'm gonna come at you with a little unexpected skepticism. But before I do that, what is the Citizens Climate Lobby?
Yeah, Citizens Climate Lobby is a nonprofit. It's a national nonprofit. We have about 100,000 supporters in the United States. And what we do is we really empower those people to find their voice, go directly to their elected members of Congress, work as a team, and talk about a solution to climate change that they believe in.
I mean, climate change, you say climate change, but isn't that really a Chinese hoax?
No, unfortunately, wouldn't that be nice? No, it's a bit more serious than that. Climate change is, for me, the most convincing argument for me is that we've known CO2 traps heat for over 150 years. We know that because we stuck some in a bottle, and when there was more CO2, the bottle was warmer. And gosh darn it, fossil fuels produce heat. And that other thing that really hurts is that ice melts at 32 degrees. So you warm the planet with that CO2 and you're gonna get some ice melting.
Yeah, and so obviously I'm kidding about that, but here is my actual skepticism. So
sure.
I know what you guys do. You mainly go and talk to Congress, and kidding aside, I love what you guys do, and the 100,000 volunteers is amazing. And so how many members of Congress have you guys talked to now?
In one day in June, we got to 507 congressional offices out of 541, including the representatives from DC, Virgin Islands, et cetera.
Yeah, okay, so that's amazing. So I guess the skepticism is that, does it work? I mean, when you, I'm keeping it real, right? When you go talk to Republicans, have you guys ever flipped a single Republican?
Yes. I am convinced that it works, and more importantly, our volunteers, the constituents for these members of Congress, they are convinced that it works. And so here's some great examples. I go back to 3 years ago, and I go back to some of the things that people told me in DC. These are smart people, they're well connected. They tell me, Danny, this is going to be impossible. So some things that they told me were impossible are, number one, it would be impossible to get a Republican in the House to introduce a bill or a resolution saying climate change is real, humans have had an impact on that, and Congress should do something about it. But then in September of 2015, we got not one, but we got 11 members of Congress, including a member of the Freedom Caucus, to do just that. And then I was told it would be absolutely impossible to get Republicans and Democrats to talk to each other in a body called such as a caucus about climate change. And even if you could do that, they sure as heck wouldn't have climate in the word. And then here we are today as a result of CCL volunteers asking their members of Congress to join. There's something called the Climate Solutions Caucus in the House, and that has 45 Republicans and 45 Democrats who meet about 4 times a year on the member level talking about climate solutions. These are things that I had been told literally were impossible. So to me, there's definitely progress. It definitely does work. When our volunteers go in and they ask their members of Congress to do something as constituents, they're listening.
So, not buying it. I'm kidding. So I love that story. I love it. So just one more thing on that. What works with Republicans? So what gets them to support the idea that facts exist?
I think what has really worked is hearing personal stories. So the real power of Citizens Climate Lobby is we make it personal. We're not paid lobbyists. We're the people who are voting for them. And when our volunteers share stories of why they want to see something happen, some of these stories are about how their lives in the district, their hopes, their future, their dreams, how that's being impacted, and you just can't argue against that. And that's the kind of thing that really really touches people. And so, I mean, the thing that I like to, I think it's easy to forget that when you are talking with members of Congress, when I started off at CCL, because I started off as a volunteer, I had this view of members of Congress as this kind of other. They were these strange people who were talking heads on TV, stuck to their talking points, and it didn't sound quite right. But you start talking to them in their offices, and you realize they have families too. They came to Congress to do something that is important to them. They're people, and you can have conversations with people.
Okay, Godspeed to you, brother. Godspeed to you, because we need it. We need speed in this case because the planet is melting.
We do.
So let's talk about solutions. You think a carbon tax is the solution? And of course, the first thing people say, "Are you crazy?" Politically, if you increase taxes on gas and everybody feels that pain, it's gonna. And the climate changes. They see all the hurricanes, and it's kind of real, and there's flooding, but I pay. I put gas in my car every day, and that's more direct impact on me. So, what is the solution for solving that political problem?
You involve people in that solution. And so the way we've done that is we give a monthly per capita dividend to everybody in this country. And what we think will happen is, yes, they'll see prices at the pump increase, but they'll also see that monthly check and they'll realize, if I can figure out a way to, instead of making 3 trips, one to the store, one to the bank, one to pick up my child, what if I do that in a loop? That's going to save me some gas, and maybe I can get under this thing. They're paying me anyway, and so if I can change my behavior, if I can be smarter here, then I can actually win. I mean, from the get-go, you're actually going to have about 2/3 of households who are going to end up ahead anyway, and that's because some people, usually households that earn a lot more, are just spending a lot more on carbon. So already low income and middle income households are going to end up ahead. But with that monthly check, they and everybody else is going to figure out, I can get ahead of this thing. So the way you overcome that aversion, which is absolutely real, you're 100% right to bring up that issue. The way you get around that is involve them, give them a way to see how they can get ahead of this, give them the agency to make changes in their lives.
So I want to make sure I understand the concept right.
Yeah.
There is a tax on carbon, so hence gas, coal, et cetera. So people are going to pay a higher price at the pump, but you're going to take the proceeds from that tax and give it back to people.
That's correct.
And so the point isn't to charge people more money to collect more tax revenue. The point is to make sure carbon is more expensive. You're still getting the money back, kind of. It depends. Like if you don't drive a car, you're going to get more money back. But it's to put a price on carbon so we use less of it, so we don't melt the planet.
Right. You got it. That's exactly right.
Okay.
What I'm really interested in is, people can't go out of business. Companies can go out of business. And the people, it's, we see the gas and we see it when we turn on our light switch and, we're on coal or natural gas. But actually most of our carbon emissions are just embedded in the stuff that we buy or the services that we buy. It's not us actually burning it. It's somebody else who burnt that to get us that stuff. So if you buy more stuff, then you're going to be paying a higher price. And so, so businesses, if you think about all the stuff that you own, it's very hard to think of something that a business didn't own first. That's just the reality of life today. And probably another business owned it before them. And so if it's in all this other stuff and not necessarily the oil and the coal that is keeping on our lights, if those businesses go out of business, then the only ones that are going to be left are the ones who are cleaner, meaner, greener. And those businesses are going to be selling the carbon content of our lives is going to go down.
Yeah, I mean,
and
look, yeah. So there's a lot of logic in it. And look, I'll be honest, I like air conditioning. But if you said, hey, Cenk, you're going to have to pay a lot more for air conditioning, I get it. Yeah, because it melts the planet. So sad day for me. Okay, so because I want my kids to live. So I like that more than I like air conditioning. Anyway, real quick, You all guys also claim that it's going to create 2.1 million jobs across the country. How?
Yeah, so it turns out that the industries that are going to pay the fee, the fossil fuel industries, the extractive industries, they are very capital intensive. So it can cost easily $1 million to drill a single oil well, and that oil well is very likely to be dry. And you got to drill another 9 to get to one that is actually going to bear oil. So that's $10 million. And that 2.1 million number that you just cited, that comes from how many nurses could you hire for $10 million? You could hire a lot. And it turns out that when you put money into the pockets of people, they spend it on things like going to the doctor, making sure that their kid gets their immunization shots, making sure their kid who has the cough actually goes to a doctor. So healthcare is one of the first things that people, when they have the dividend in their pocket, that's one of the first things they're going to spend their money on, and that is more labor intensive. So with this setup, the fee and then the dividend, the fee disincentivizes capital intensive industries. The dividend is going to be spent on labor intensive industries. So that's how that works.
All right. Everybody check out citizensclimatelobby.org. And I always encourage people to get involved. Activism is even more important than voting. Voting is super important, but activism, like what the civil rights movement did, it moves a planet. So in this case, we need to save a planet. So citizensclimatelobby.org. Dr. Danny Richter, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure being here. Thanks.
Thanks for watching this free clip of Rebel Headquarters. Don't forget to become a TYT member today for more exclusive content. Join now at tyt.com/join.